Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and in today's video we're going to be continuing all the book series I'm currently in the middle of. So before I get into the video, please remember to like this video if you enjoy it and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. I primarily read fantasy, thriller and romance books and I post videos every Sunday. So in 2025, especially near the end, I made it my mission to catch up and make progress in a lot of the series that I was in the middle of. I was in the middle of way too many series. A lot of them I only had like one book left to read and I was getting really frustrated because when I eventually did get to read them, I didn't enjoy them as much as I think I would have if I had sort of read the series, not necessarily back to back, but certainly in quicker succession than I did. Now obviously this isn't always possible. If I'm reading a brand new release, we do have to wait a bit of time for the second book. I'm talking about series that have all of the books published or most of them. I basically want to be better at continuing them and I want to bring that energy into 2026 because we did a really good job in 2025. In this video we've got 4 series that I want to make progress in. So I have 2 fantasy books, a crime book / thriller book and a romance book. So the 2 fantasy books are the second book in a trilogy, both of them. So we have the book that broke the world by Mark Lawrence. I think that's what this is called. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's the second book in the library trilogy. I read the first one in sort of October last year, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy Mark Lawrence as an author, so I really want to carry on and make progress in this one. The second one is the Battle Drum by Saara El-Arifi. I read the first one in December of 2025, really enjoyed it. Such a good start to a series, so I want to continue this one as well. I then have Play With Me by Bekka Mack. This is the second book in this series. I think this is the Playing for Keeps series. They're all sort of like interconnected romances, so it's not as vital that I continue this series as quickly as I am, but I do want to read this series. I did enjoy the first one. I gave it like a 3.75. I do think it was a bit long, but I'm excited to see where this one's gonna go. I think this one is the same sort of length, so I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about it, but I'm excited to get to this one. And then finally we have the 4th book in the Finlay Donovan series, which is Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice. This is a sort of like cozy crime series following Finlay Donovan, and I read the first 2 books when they first came out and then stopped with the series. So I reread the first 2 and I'm continuing on, and I think the final book comes out this year, so obviously that depends when my library gets a copy, whether I finish it this year or whenever I finish it basically. But I'm really enjoying this one so far, so I'm excited to crack on with them. So those are the 4 books that I'm going to be reading, 2 of them on my Kindle and 2 physically. Well, 1 from my physical TBR and 1 from the library. So let's get reading. I have started reading the first book for this reading vlog, which is the Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence. But essentially this one follows 2 main characters, Livria and Elle. It's kind of quite complicated, this world, so I'm not really going to try and describe it too much. I would say if this sounds like an interesting book to you, I would check out my previous video where I read the first book. But essentially we follow these 2 main characters and it's based around this library, but this library is a magical library and you can come to this library from different points in time. There's all sorts of different creatures that can access this library. There's certain doors that will only open for certain creatures. Essentially the first book is us trying to find out sort of a bit more about this library, where exactly our characters are from, their backstories and how they are connecting together, and essentially where in time are they, because we're following these 2 perspectives but we don't quite know when they line up, and we do have some crossover with these 2 characters. And I will say that the first book, I think I gave it like a 4.5 rating. It was really good and a really solid start to the series. This second book had a recap of the first book at the beginning, which was really good because there was a lot of things that I not necessarily forgotten, but I think with Mark Lawrence, the books, there's so much more to them than the surface level. You sort of have to read between the lines with his books, which I sometimes struggle a bit with, so sometimes things go over my head a little bit. So some of the things in the recap I was actually like, oh, I didn't like sort of fully clock that. So following these 2 characters again after sort of what had happened in the first book and the consequences of sort of their actions, we also have a new perspective of a creature who is a slave with her brother, and she is kind of taken out of slavery because her brother knows some things about the library that he shouldn't, and I'm not sure how she's gonna connect to these characters. I think it's a different creature than what we're already following, a different species to what we're already following, so I'm interested to see where she sits in this and how this storyline is going to connect to our current 2. I think we're mainly following her so far. We have had only a chapter or 2 from Livria and we've only had a couple of chapters from Elle, who obviously obviously I'm more invested in their story because they were in the first book. So this new perspective, I'm sort of like, where are we going with this? How is this going to link up? And I think, you know, it took quite a while for our previous two characters to sort of connect in the first book, so I may be waiting a bit of time. So I am actually, I think, about 40% of the way through. My Kindle's a bit slow sometimes. Yeah, so I'm 42% of the way through. I'm on chapter 19, which is Selcha's chapter, who is the new perspective that we've been introduced to. I will say her perspective is interesting, and to be honest with you, with this library, I'm really interested to learn as much about it as I can because it's just so fascinating, and this world that Mark Lawrence has created is amazing. And I'm kind of wondering, is it connected to his other series? Because we have some mentions of the moon, and the series by him that I DNF'd, The Girl on the Mountain, I read the first series, the Red Sister, Holy Sister series, loved that, didn't love the second series in that world, and I DNF'd it at the second book. And then I don't know if this one is connected in some way, I'm interested to find out, but I'm just really enjoying what I'm reading. For me, like, it's slow but it's quick to get through. I don't know if much is going to happen in this book. So far we've been doing a lot of sort of building up of where our characters are, introducing this new perspective, and potentially I don't know where that's going to go, so I'm interested to find out. So I'm going to crack on with reading this one, and I'll check back in with you guys probably when I'm done. But so far, really enjoying it. Definitely not enjoying it as much as the first book, but I think that's kind of to be expected with like the second book in a trilogy. Often they do kind of have a lot more filler in them, and this one so far is definitely not filler because we are introducing a new character perspective, but I'm not sure where she fits in. I'm not that invested in her at the moment because, like I said, obviously we followed the other two characters throughout the whole of the previous book, so for them to kind of get sidelined is a bit so yeah, I'm going to carry on with this one and I'll check back in with you guys when I'm done. But so far so good, really enjoying it. I love Mark Lawrence's writing as usual, and like I said, the world is really interesting, so I'm kind of happy to just go along on the ride that he's taking us on. Yeah, I'm going to crack on with this one and check back in with you guys when I'm done. I have now finished reading The Book That Broke the World by Mark Lawrence, and I'm going to give this one a 3.5 star rating. So I did enjoy this one, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the first book. I think this took a very different direction in terms of plot, so we're more focused on like a corrupt government and things like that rather than the library, even though we were only really based in this library. And the introduction of a new perspective that then kind of like tapered off into nothing really, like we just suddenly stopped getting her perspective, and then suddenly the three perspectives tie in together, but it was just a bit sort of not anticlimactic, but I genuinely just don't think I could say really what happened in this book. I feel like it was a lot more of our characters finding their way back to each other, a lot of talking and deciding what to do rather than doing things. And then at the end we had some sort of like climatic scene, but I find sometimes Mark Lawrence's writing can be a little bit confusing in that because you have to sort of read through the lines, he tries to sort of like, instead of telling you outright, he tries to like infer what's happening, and for me a lot of that goes over my head. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that was in the recap, I was sort of like, I don't remember learning any of this, and I just found it a little bit confusing. I will carry on with this series. I'm intrigued to know what happens, and I'm hoping that the final book ties everything together really nicely and wraps up these characters' storylines really well, and maybe upon reflection I'll have enjoyed this one a bit more once I kind of realise how it sits within the structure of this story. But I just found that I loved the library, and this magical library where there's every book ever written, and we didn't really get so much of that. It was more of the politics of this world, which again was still interesting, but even then it was only sort of a few scenes that touched upon it, and it was more of like our characters trying to find their way back to each other. So it was just a bit, it fell a bit flat for me, this one, to be honest with you. And I also noticed that this book was a hell of a lot shorter than the previous book. The first book was 550-ish pages long. This one was about 300 or so pages long, and I think that either this was a bit of a filler book, I don't know. Until I read the final book, I don't really know what my opinion is on this book. I just know that I definitely didn't enjoy it as much as the first book, which was like a 4.5 for me really. So this was a little bit, not a disappointment, like a 3.5 star, still a good rating. I think I'm just a bit picky sometimes with what I want, and I really enjoyed the first book. This was very different to that, and I feel like we just didn't really spend enough time with these characters and their stories, and the story wasn't even all that interesting for me. When I go into the third book, hopefully it will be a bit more like the first book, and we will wrap up the library storyline, if that makes sense. So I'm still enjoying the series. A 3.5 star is still a really good rating. It's above average, you know. I still really like I liked it. I didn't like love it. So yeah, I'm interested to carry on with this series, and I've now only got one book left in this series, which is really, really good. I'm hoping to do better this year at continuing on with series that I start. So happy with my progress in this one, and on to the next book for this vlog. So I'm about 40% of the way through the next book for this reading vlog, which is The Battle Drum by Saara El-Arifi. This is the second book in the Final Strife trilogy, which I did start at the beginning of December. So in this one we follow a society that is split upon blood colour. In the first book we have 3 different blood colours. We have clear, we have blue, and we have red. And the red bloods rule the society. The blue bloods are kind of like middle, and the clear bloods are ghostings. They are extremely like segregated and treated horrifically. So they supposedly rebelled 400 years ago, and in penance every ghosting child has their tongues cut out and their hands chopped off, so they can't speak and they can only use their sort of limbs to work. So things are adapted for them, and the embers treat them, the reds or the embers treat them really badly, and so do the blues. Really, the blues are kind of like the middle. 20 years prior to the start of this book, I think it was 12 red-blooded babies and 12 blue-blooded babies were swapped in a way to, when they grew up, that they would help bring the society together and maybe turn everything around. And sort of 20 years later there's only one of them left alive, supposedly, and then as the book goes on we realise actually there's a few of them left alive, and we basically follow these characters plus a ghosting character in how they navigate the society and how they are planning on trying to bring it down or just trying to survive. And the second book we have started to explore this world a lot more. We've got a new perspective as well, which I'm really interested to see where it goes. So I am really enjoying the second book so far. I think so far it's a really strong installment in a trilogy. You do find sometimes with trilogies that the second book is a bit weaker, but I personally think this one is really strong so far. I'm really enjoying all the perspectives and where these storylines are going. I think that the pacing is really good. I think sometimes with second books you take a while to really do anything or not a lot really happens, but so far we have made some moves. All our characters are progressing their storylines and we are moving quite fast, so I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm really intrigued as to how we are opening this world up even more and exploring more of this world, and just what's going to happen with our characters, what's going to happen with the society. Really enjoying it so far. I'm about, like I said, about 40% of the way through, so I'm going to carry on reading a little bit more and check back in with you guys later. But so far really enjoying it, and if it sounds interesting I definitely recommend picking it up. I will leave the vlog that I read the first book in linked above. But yeah, really enjoying this one so far. So last night I did finish reading The Battle Drum by Saara El-Arifi, and I'm going to give this one a 4-star rating. I'm kind of tempted to give it a 4.5, but I'm not really sure on that one, so it's definitely a 4-star. This was a really solid second book in this series. There was no slow moments, no sort of moments that fell flat. I think that we had a really good introduction to another part of this world, but also continuing the story of the present world that we knew in this fantasy world. I think the character development and the journeys our characters went on were really good. We had characters in different parts of the world. Like I said, we were exploring a new part of this world. We also spent a good amount of time in the world that we already knew with the 3 different types of blood, with the Warden Empire. So as I said, we did get a new character perspective, and I was sort of getting towards the end and I was thinking, who is this character? Because surely they've got to tie into the current plot that we've got going on, because I'm trying to work out where they sort of came from, really, how they fit into this story. And I think the twist on this was actually really good. I thought it added quite a lot of backstory, and I think again we are going to expand on this world even more than we already have, and we've already expanded on it quite a bit in this second book. I think that this character did actually add some importance to the plot. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but the significance of this character and their story is going to have a big effect on the plot, and also one particular character that we already know and love, one of our main characters. They are going to have a big significant impact on them and their storyline, and I'm really interested to see where that is going to go. I think Saara El-Arifi is really good at planting things throughout the story that you don't even pick up on until near the end. So we had at one point Honor, our blue blood who's masquerading as a red blood. She was trying to help the citizens of this empire and pass a bill. So they have something called the tide wind, which is basically like a really strong wind that can kill you, and she wanted to open up more shelters but also open it up to the different types of the different blood. So that was sort of quite a significant part at the beginning of the storyline, and then we obviously had something that happened that kind of took her off track of that, and somebody else ended up picking that up. And how we got from the beginning of that story to where we ended up with it was really crucial to the plot. But you get little tidbits throughout the story and you don't almost pick up on them, and then at the end you're sort of like, oh, how did I miss these like clues that I was given? And I think the journey that our character Hassa went on, oh my god, this poor girl, like I just want to like take her out of this story. I'm like, she's suffered enough, she has suffered enough. Take her out, just wrap her in a warm blanket and just protect her at all costs. Like I love her, I love her story. I think she is such a crucial part to this book, and the fact that she doesn't speak, like obviously she signs because she's got no hands, her voice is so powerful, and I just think that like just there's no words for her, honestly. She's just absolutely amazing. I did think Sila, she wasn't with the two main characters in this book, but she does make her way back, and I kind of wish she'd stayed where she was, because I think she is exploring the wider parts of this world, let's say, and I think I'm really interested in that. I want to see where that goes, how this is going to affect the world that we currently know, and I just think that maybe obviously there's a reason that she has come back, so in the third book this will all hopefully make sense. But yeah, I just wish that she had kind of, considering that she was kind of like the main character of the three in the first book, she took a sort of step back in this book, I think is what I'm trying to say, and I'm interested to see where she is going to go in this next and final book in this trilogy. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'd highly recommend this series if you haven't already read it. I mean, I do still have the final book to read, so let's hope that the final book is as good, or if not better, than the rest of the series so far. But yeah, this was such a fantastic installment, and I'm really glad that I've kept up the pace with this book and with this series, I mean, and kept going with it and keeping on top of it. So yeah, really enjoyed this one, and yeah, on to the next book for this vlog, I guess. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. I definitely think it's like a 4.5 for me. Really good, fantastic second book in a trilogy. I have now read the next book for this reading vlog, which is Play With Me by Bekka Mack. This is the second book in the Playing for Keeps series, which is a ice hockey romance series. So in this one we follow Garrett and Jenny. Garrett is one of Carter's teammates, so Carter is the captain of the team and his book was the first book. Garrett is his teammate and Jenny is Carter's sister. Carter buys Jenny a condo in the building that Garrett lives in, and they strike up a friendship which very quickly turns into a friends with benefits kind of situation, which then turns into a romantic relationship. They are very hesitant to take the relationship when they are friends with benefits any further, because obviously Jenny is Carter's sister and Garrett is his teammate, and they don't want him to feel like they're betraying him or going behind his back or anything like that. And I will say I did enjoy this book, hence the 4-star rating, and I definitely think it was more enjoyable for me than the first book, which I gave a 3.75 star rating. I just really find Carter quite irritating as a character, and obviously he does play a role in this book, obviously as being Jenny's brother, and I think the way that he reacted was just quite over the top and childish, and I think that just kind of sums Carter up in general. Like, I know he's not a real character, but I genuinely don't understand how like Olivia puts up with him. He's really irritating, and it's very like the world revolves around him, and he does come around to their relationship, but the way that he reacts is very like self-centered from my opinion. This is turning into a bit of like a Carter trashing session, so we will move on. I did really like Garrett and Jenny as a couple. I really liked them as individual characters. Again, they both have things going on that are quite difficult to deal with. So Jenny is struggling with her identity, with herself, and being accepted for who she is. She generally believes that people are only interested in her because of her brother, and Garrett has a lot to deal with in the fact that his family is very complicated, and I think seeing them support each other and be there for each other, and Garrett encourages Jenny and even the other people around Jenny, like all of their friends, things that really encourage Jenny to believe in herself and believe that people want to be in her life because they enjoy her company, you know, not because she's Carter's sister. I did like the appearances of the other characters. I'm assuming we're going to follow some of these characters in the later books. I really loved, you know, Cara and Emmett. They are my favourite couple, I think. I really did like Garrett and Jenny together though. I'm interested to read Adam's book. I hope we do get a book about Adam, because I really do enjoy him as a character. I enjoy the friendship as well that all these people have with each other, and yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. The only thing I will say, again, same with the first book, I just think that these books are just a little bit too long. I think if we cut a few scenes out, it would benefit and make the story a bit better, because a bit like with the first one, by the time we got nearer to the end, I was kind of like, oh, can we wrap it up? I think Bekka Mack is a bit like Lucy Score, and I think that some books do need to be 500 pages, but I don't think like an ice hockey romance doesn't really need to be 500 pages long, if we're being completely honest. I do think some of this could have been cut out, and I think some of the like more intimate scenes did get a bit repetitive, and especially near the end I just kind of find myself not skimming them, but I was just kind of like really not interested in them. I think there's only so many ways that you can read about things like that, and you know, a couple of scenes are fine, and I think it gets to the point where you just think, oh, like enough now. Like I enjoyed the friendships that Jenny made with the people in her building and things like that. It was just like a fun book. I think a 4-star rating is fair. I definitely enjoyed it more than the first book in this series. I'm definitely very keen to carry on. It didn't take me too long to read either. The writing style was really engaging, and it was just fun to hang out with this couple, really, I think. And also the overarching story of like the hockey team and things like that was quite interesting. I do wish we got more games. I wish we got more, because seeing like Cara, how she is so energetic about these games, and seeing, you know, Jenny was also very energetic with them, of what we saw, but I wish we saw more. That's the only sort of thing I would say about this one, along with like too many sort of intimate scenes. And I think I hope we get less Carter in future books, to be quite honest with you, because he just really starting to annoy me. I just think, like, again, his reaction to things is just so over the top, and yeah, I think he's just, for an ice hockey captain, he's just very immature, and it gets a bit grating. And I think that like Garrett and Jenny don't need to answer to him, and I don't know why they're so not protective of his feelings, but why they're so unwilling to pursue something that clearly makes them both happy. I think Carter would be angry if it was just like Garrett taking advantage of Jenny. Yeah, that's fair to be angry at that, but that's not what this is. So I don't know why they're so, I don't know. And I think things that Jenny's had to deal with over the years, like to see her really come into herself and really start to love herself again, was really, really good. Yeah, I just don't really have really too much more to say about that. It was fun. I definitely enjoyed this one more than the first book, so I'm definitely keen to continue on with this series and see who we follow in the next book. But yeah, that is this one done, and that is a 4-star rating. So I've got 3 books left in this series now to read, and I'm not too worried about getting into too many romance series, because obviously they're interconnected standalones. You don't need to read them in quick succession to remember what happened. I think with fantasy, I need to read fantasy a bit more in quicker succession than romance. So I will be continuing on with this series, and I'm sure in an upcoming vlog there will be another one of these coming up. But yeah, on to the next book for this reading vlog. I have now read the final book for this reading vlog, which is Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice by Elle Cosimano. This is the 4th book in the Finlay Donovan series, and in this series we follow our main character Finlay Donovan, her nanny Vero, and essentially they get tied up in all sorts. Finlay is a romance author, and she's branching out into something a little bit different, and she is in a cafe with her publicist, her editor, and she is describing the plot of her new book, and she essentially gets mistaken for a hitwoman. And when her publicist leaves, a woman approaches Finlay and slides a name and a cash amount on a piece of paper towards her. And when Finlay contacts her to basically be like, what's this, the woman essentially hires her to kill her husband. And then from there, Finlay gets tied up in like the Russian mob and this murder for hire sort of situation. So this is the 4th book in that series now, and in this one Finlay and Vero end up in Atlantic City to essentially resolve something from Vero's past, but also it still ties into the plot line of like the Russian mob and the murder for hire sort of thing. So this one you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Like, it's really not realistic, especially the relationships that Finlay has with the police officers, and just the situations that she finds herself in are very like incriminating, and nobody seems to like question her on it. So I think you do have to suspend your disbelief, but it is like a fun story. I think for me, I gave this one a 4-star, and it's definitely not comparable to like a 4-star fantasy book. I think with the different genres I kind of rate them a bit differently. With thrillers I kind of rate them on enjoyment, and this one, it's fun. It's completely unrealistic, but it's just a bit of fun, really. It's like a cozy sort of crime thriller book, really. I think all the books in the series are kind of on the same level. For me, it's a good book, a good series to pick up. Like, for me, on an evening after work, I'm like tired, I don't really want anything that, like, I find reading fantasy on like an evening when I've worked all day, I find I just fall asleep within like 30 seconds. Because with like a thriller or a romance, because it requires less brain power in a way, like because you don't have so much world building and politics and things like that, you just kind of like go with it. These are great for just like sort of like not no thoughts, head empty kind of books. Like, you do still have to think, but less so than like a fantasy. So these are great for just like, you know, an evening for me. So yeah, I did enjoy this one. I do think that the situations that Finlay is finding herself in are getting a bit more convoluted and just a bit more unrealistic, but it's just a bit of fun, really. I think that maybe this could have just ended as it was. Like, this wrapped up quite a lot of the main plot quite well for this series, and then we've kind of opened up something else. And obviously I haven't read the 5th book yet, so I don't know if that's, you know, still related to the main plot or not. But for me, I think like maybe she could have wrapped it up here. I don't know why we've got like another 2 books. I don't know if there's going to be more after that. I know the 6th one comes out in like March, so I don't know if there's going to be any more, but I think maybe this is kind of going on. She's kind of milking it a little bit now, but it is just a bit of fun. That's the thing, it's just fun. And I know I'm not really selling it. I don't feel like I'm really selling it. I did enjoy it, but you do just have to suspend your disbelief, I think, with this series. So that is, you know, I've got a couple more books left in this series to read now, which I'm really happy with, and it is just a bit of fun. So I would still recommend this series if you want like a sort of cozy crime thriller book that's not too like, not gory, but like not too intense on like the murder and things like that. Like things like that are mentioned, but it's never really like graphically described. It's just like cozy crime really. And following Finlay, who kind of like has got herself mixed up in this accidentally, is kind of funny. And she's kind of like, her and Vero, the nanny, kind of bumble along the way, and then her family get dragged into it, and then like she's trying to stop the Russian mob, and she's got her 2 kids with her. It's just kind of funny really. So yeah, 4 stars for this one. I'm glad I'm catching up on this series now. So that is going to be it for this reading vlog, where I've caught up on a few series that I am in the middle of. Please comment down below if you've read any of these books. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Please remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.